Good evening. I'm Cynthia Simonson, president of the Montgomery County Council of PTAs. Tomorrow, I'll actually be passing the presidency to a new administration, which I invite you all to come and attend. But it is my great honor as my last function as MCC PTA's president to welcome you to the Board of Education Candidates Forum. I want to express MCC PTA's gratitude to the League of Women Voters and to all of you for being here this evening to make tonight happen. The Board of Education race is often considered a down ballot contest. But as everyone with us tonight knows, these are important races that shape the direction of public education within Montgomery County. MCC PTA is proud to work with the League on this event, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the support of our other co-sponsors, NAACP, Identity, AAUW, Metro DC, PFLAG, OCA, Alpha Kappa Alpha, the Theta Omega Omega chapter, Delta Sigma Theta, Potomac Valley Alumni Chapter, Kappa, and the Progressive Asian American Network. Each of these organizations were involved in providing the questions for the candidates tonight. Thanks to all of you. We hope that this event helps you, the voters, as you make your decisions for the important offices of the Board of Education. And now, from the League of Women Voters, Vicki Stella.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good evening. I'm Vicki Strella, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Montgomery County. I'd like to remind everyone of some of the guidelines for tonight's event. This is a Zoom webinar, which means that all viewers can see the participants, but viewers will not be seeing themselves nor be able to communicate with the candidates or the hosts. We are recording this event for later viewing, and we hope to have versions available in other languages such as Spanish and Chinese. And now I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Dr. Janelle Wong. Dr. Wong is Professor of American Studies and Politics and Government at the University of Maryland and a core faculty member in the Asian American Studies program. Previously, she taught at the University of Southern California. She earned her PhD at Yale University in political science. Dr. Wong.
Thank you so much, Vicki. And good evening. We are excited to hold this Board of Education Forum, which will give you a good idea of the candidates and their experience and interests. Again, this is a forum rather than a debate. So our interest is in hearing what the candidates say as clearly as possible and without interruption. Questions were submitted in advance, so we will not be able to entertain questions from the audience tonight. For our candidates, I think you've all done this, please make sure your name on the Zoom window includes your district number or whether you are at large, followed by your name. We will be using a clock timer that will appear in a window that will count down the time left for the candidate to speak. You must stop at the end of your time in order to be fair to all. There are 4 school board races this year: at large, District 1, District 3, and District 5. Although the candidates must live in their districts, all county voters may vote for their preferred candidate in each district or at large. Tonight, we will group the candidates by district so that you can see which candidates are competing against each other. We will begin with opening statements of 1 minute, then move on to the questions submitted by the co-sponsors by groups of 2 districts responding to the same question. They will each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond, and then we'll end with a closing statement of 1 minute. So let's get started with the opening statements. Again, these will be 1 minute each, and we will start with a set of candidates and reverse that order for the closing statements. I note that Valerie Coll regrets that she cannot be here with us today due to recovery from a medical emergency. In addition, another candidate, Mike Erickson, cannot be with us tonight. So let's go ahead and start with the opening statement from Alexander Fahmy.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Alexander Fahmy. I am running for District 1 Board of Education here in Montgomery County. I'm 27 years old. I am a product of Montgomery County, born and raised in Damascus, Maryland. Went to Lois P. Rockwell Elementary School, Baker Middle School, Rocky Hill, as well as Damascus High School, where I went on to graduate from Towson University. Currently work in the sports industry. I evaluate startups and pitch decks for a sports venture capital firm, as well as setting up events for professional athletes and college athletes. The reason why I'm running is because I am very passionate about the education system, and I look forward, to meeting all of you, and sharing my platform with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, Jay Guan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jay Guan, candidate for Board of Education District 1. Public education was my path to upward social mobility. I'm deeply grateful for it. One of the reasons I'm running for the Board of Education is to ensure that this upwardly mobile path will still be here for our children and grandchildren. I have a unique blend of personal upbringing, professional experience, educational advocacy, and grassroots community organizing experience. My personal upbringing as a poor ESOL student gives me a unique perspective on what we must do to address the opportunity gap and the challenges facing MCPS. As a parent of a first grader and a community leader, I have a first person on the ground view of MCPS operations and policy implementation. Moreover, it enables me to listen in on candid conversations between parents, teachers, and community members. I look forward to talking with you all tonight.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Grace Rivera-Oven.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Grace Rivera-Oven. I'm running for District 1. I am a product and a former ESOL student, a product of Montgomery County Public Schools. I graduated from Gaithersburg High School. I am the mother of 3 who also attended Montgomery County Public Schools. My youngest just graduated in 2020. I have been an advocate for over 35 years. Public education is one of my passions. I'm also the founder of the Up County Hub, here located in Germantown, Maryland. And I'm here to put my experience, everything that I have done so far, and put it to work, hopefully on the Board of Education. If elected, I will be an advocate for every child and a voice at the table after this pandemic. We have a lot of work to do. Thank you so much, the League, for having me tonight.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Esther Wells.
Hi, my name is Esther Wells, and I am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County and the proud parent of 2 boys, a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old who has autism and ADHD who attends MCPS. They are the source of my passion and advocacy for a brighter future for all learners. A successful and thriving school system is important to our entire community. My family migrated to the United States in 1995 in search of the American dream. My education background includes a bachelor's in accounting from the University of Maryland, College Park, a master's degree, and I'm currently a certified public accountant in the state of Maryland for over 12 years. My plans as your next member of the Board of Education are to put students' needs first by keeping our schools open with a renewed sense of urgency and focus on literacy by setting high standards in academics. Ensure all students feel safe, secured, and welcomed in our schools, and to advocate for our special populations, including the gifted and talented. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And moving to District 3, our next candidate is Marcus Alzona.
Hello, my name is Marcus Alzona. I'm a parent and technologist, and I'm running for the Board of Education in District 3. My goal is to be a common sense voice for parents, as well as focusing on school safety and technology. I am a parent of MCPS 10th and 12th graders. I was born in Montgomery County, a child, grandchild, and spouse of immigrants. I was in the MCPS Head Start program for disadvantaged children, as well as in the first graduating class of the MCPS Math Science Computer Science Magnet program at Montgomery Blair in Silver Spring. My background, I have computer science and information networking bachelor's and master's degrees from Carnegie Mellon. And I've focused on science and technology research, cybersecurity, smart cities, et cetera, as well as to be a nonprofit live stream director for schools and communities. And that's my introduction. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Next, Scott Joftus.
After Pat O'Neill tragically passed away, the school board selected me from among 18 applicants to complete her term. Since then, I've been endorsed by Senate Majority Leader Nancy King, Ike Leggett, and the SEIU. Other big endorsements will be announced soon. And here's what my political hero, Jamie Raskin, has said. We are benefiting from Scott's work with school districts across the country and his insight as a professor of educational leadership. We're lucky to have him where he is using his expertise on behalf of our students and our schools. Why am I telling you all this? I don't have much time to tell you about myself, so I'm explaining why they are supporting me. First, I've been dedicated to equity my entire professional life as a teacher, advisor to superintendents and school boards, professor of education, and board member. And second, I understand school systems and the leadership levers that need to be pulled in order to get results. I look forward to the conversation tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. And now, Julie Young.
Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor to be here with the League of Women Voters and all the sponsoring organizations. Women like me are able to participate in the democratic process today because of the many suffrage leaders who came before us. I'm Julie Yang, a proud mother of 2 MCPS students. I have spent nearly 20 years as a classroom teacher, then as a college and career counselor in MCPS. I have a leadership record of building bridges across PTAs, community nonprofits, and the student community. My vision is simple. Every child deserves a chance to succeed. We achieve this by expanding opportunities, prioritize long-term mental health solutions for our students and staff, and finally, restore communication and rebuild trust between the school and families. I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. And moving to District 5 candidate, Dawn Iannaco-Hahn, please.
I'm Dawn Iannaco-Hahn, and I'm the proud mother of 2 boys, 11 and 13, and I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor. And in my 22 years in mental health, I've provided services to children ages 2 to 14 and their families in various school settings. And I've worked in partnership and trained school staff. I've been an active participant in my children's education by joining PTA and coordinating events, volunteering, and supporting the teachers in the school community. I plan to bring both my professional and my personal experience to the board, which needs someone who truly understands the mental health crisis that we're in, and someone who has children in MCPS, and someone who isn't afraid to ask tough questions and be a dissenting voice and challenge the status quo. Some of my main priorities are getting better and more efficient health programming into the schools, mental health programming, transparency and accountability, and changing hiring guidelines to get better individuals into the school and to keep them here. I look forward to this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And from District 5, also Brenda Wolff.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Wolff, and I'm running for a 2nd term on the Board of Education. I've spent the majority of my career advocating for and advancing the cause of public education. I've served 27 years in the U.S. Department of Education, finally ending as the program manager of the nation's report card. So I understand the importance of good data and what we can learn about and from our students. I know what it takes to get change and how to work with my fellow board members to make that happen. I've served 2 terms. I'm in my 2nd term as the president. I also have a grandson in the system and a daughter that teaches in the system. So I am actively involved. I have also served as the chief regional attorney in the Office for Civil Rights in Boston and the deputy director and director of the Philadelphia Office for Civil Rights. So I have a lot of experience in access. Sorry.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Domenic Giandomenico.
Thank you. My name is Domenic Jandomenico, and I'm running for the at-large seat on the Montgomery County Board of Education. I've spent nearly 2 decades in Silver Spring, and during that time, I've helped write and implement education laws nationally and in more than 20 states. I'm proud to have worked for a bipartisan array of organizations like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Democrats for Education Reform, Advanced Career Technical Education, and Project Lead the Way. No matter whom I've worked for, my message has always been the same. Every child must receive an education that equitably prepares them for their lives after public schools. Since COVID struck, I've also been the full-time caretaker of my 3-year-old daughter, Phoebe, and my 7-month-old son, Jake. Phoebe was diagnosed with autism in 2020, and we've been working with MCPS for a while now. I've seen passionate teachers and providers, but I've also found a system that's been an absolute nightmare to navigate. It's a school district filled with great people that want to do the right thing, and we have to empower them to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last candidate to speak as an opening statement is Karla Silvestre.
Good evening, buenas noches a todos. I'm Karla Silvestre. I'm the current Vice President of the Board of Education. But first and foremost, I am the mother of 2 girls, one a graduate of MCPS and another one currently in 9th grade. I work full-time for Montgomery College as Director of Community Engagement. And my job is to connect people that did not go to college with the associate's degree program or workforce development training. My personal experience is that I came to this country when I was 8 years old. I didn't speak English, I didn't have legal documents, and my family was very low income. I received a lot of support, and I received a high quality education. And now I stand before you tonight. I tell you that story not because I'm special, but because I believe I am an example of what every student can achieve if given access to a high quality education. And I'm committed to doing just that if I have the privilege of being reelected to the board. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our candidates. In order for you voters to be clear about candidates for each district, we will group the set of questions coming forward and target them to 2 groups of candidates at a time. So for example, all of the candidates in District 1 and District 5 will respond to the same question before we move on to another set of questions for those from District 3 and the at-large candidates. So there are 2 groups of candidates, and each question set has been randomly assigned to one of these groups. As a reminder, please mute yourself when it is not your turn to speak. We will state the question and then call on the candidates in varying order throughout the program for each question. So let's get started with our first question. And this question is going to be for a group starting with Domenic Giandomenico. As ESSER funds are spent down, what should be the priority investments for MCPS? And what should be prioritized after these funds have been exhausted?
Thank you. Our priorities right now need to be a laser focus on 2 issues in particular. We need to focus on learning loss after COVID, and we need to address teacher burnout from before COVID and since and during COVID. Half of the teachers have reported stress levels that are insanely high, and we have to do something to get that under control. Thank you. Next,
we will ask the same question of Karla Silvestre.
Thank you. Mental health, mental health, mental health. Our ESSER funds have allowed us to do what we always wanted to do. It was really ramp up our mental health capacity for the school system. So those case managers, the 32 case managers that are hired, we need to put those into the budget. Our restorative justice practices, our contract with Jessup for mental health, our wellness centers that need a significant investment in the next coming years, those are all priorities for the next few years. Thank you.
And Marcus Alzona.
We need to make sure that both our kids' mental health is taken care of, but as well as them being safe in schools. So I think school safety is something that we should put back in more prominently into our operations. Furthermore, I think longer term, we need to support our teachers better to retain quality teachers.
Thank you. And the question now goes to Scott Joftus.
Thank you. I agree with Vice President Silvestre. Mental health is the first priority until we address the social and emotional wellness of all students and staff. Learning is going to be very difficult to achieve. And then my second priority will be to address the equitable return to equitable teaching and learning. That's one of Dr. McKnight's priorities as well. And starting with a return to structured literacy in grades K through 2. Thanks.
And Julie Young.
Yes, I amplify what have been said about mental health. It's our foremost priority now to get students and staff recover from the trauma of this pandemic. Now, gradually, we do need to work mental health into our budget so that it will reflect as our priority for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Our next question is, what do you consider to be the one or two most urgent issues for MCPS now, and how will you go about addressing one of these issues? And this question goes to Alexander Fahmy.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue right now is making up for the last 2 years of the lockdowns. We need to keep the schools open. And I also believe that to receive an education, or for parents or for teachers to be able to teach, they shouldn't be restricted into doing so. We need to keep the schools open, and I think that'll solve a lot of the mental health issues that were a result of the last 2 years of being trapped in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. And the question goes next to Jay Guan.
So I think one of the utmost priority for MCPS at the moment is to increase its resilience against labor shortages and future disruptions, whether it be public health events or other emergencies. In the past 2 years, I think what we have seen is that in-person school is one of the most essential elements of society. So we must make sure that our operation is resilient against other contingencies. And more importantly, we also need to recruit and retain more teachers.
Thank you. Grace Rivera-Oven.
I'm going to say what Vice President Karla said. For me, the first issue would be, and what I'm seeing right now, is mental health support, not just for our students, but also for our educators and our support staff. The last 2 years have been extremely difficult on our families. The next thing that I would look into is equity in education, regardless of a zip code where the child lives. I think we need to focus on making sure that every child has access to a good education, that we look into the gaps that we're seeing in math and reading for our children, especially our children of color.
Okay, thank you. Same question goes to Esther Wells. And again, this is, what do you consider to be the one or two most urgent issues facing MCPS now, and how will you go about addressing one of these?
Yes, thank you for that question. The most urgent issue that is facing Montgomery County Public Schools is to right the wrongs to our special needs population, like my son. That is what propelled me into the race. As I mentioned in my opening statement, my son has autism and ADHD, and his learning loss caused trauma and damage. It has caused anxiety, frustration with his schoolwork. And as a parent, I think it really I'm here to advocate for him and ensure that he has the resources that he needs.
Thank you. And I will give the question now to Dawn Iannaco-Hahn.
To echo what others have said, and what I've been saying for a long time, is that the #1 priority in MCPS right now needs to be mental health. Kids cannot learn if they are anxious, if they are depressed, if they are suicidal, and we need to address that. And I bring the experience to do that with having worked in a school mental health program, and I am able to go to other agencies and help to partner with them. And that's what we need to do. We need to bring licensed clinicians into the school to provide therapeutic services to our students and our staff.
Thank you. And Brenda Wolff.
Okay, the two most important things that we need to focus on are mental health and getting back to teaching and learning. It's clear that our students have suffered the last 2 years from virtual learning, and we have to mitigate that loss. We will be able to do that by intervening with, we have telehealth going on right now. We have hired psychologists. We have 38 new social workers coming on, and we are working with our county partners. But as Vice President Silvestre said, mental health is the first thing, and getting back to teaching and learning.
Thank you so much. And the next question is, how will you engage the community in the decision-making processes to improve public schools in the district? How will you engage the community in the decision-making processes to improve public schools in the district? And our first candidate who will be asked to respond is Julie Young.
Thank you for that question. We need to meet the community where they are. Now, through my campaign, I have been out talking to voters, and many have said that they have never had a Board of Education candidate knocking on their doors. So my pledge is I will be in the community. I will engage trusted partners in the community. I will be talking to voters, and your voice matters to me. And only that we can make the right decisions by engaging the communities.
Thank you, Scott. Joftus?
Thank you. This is a large community. We're 1 million people strong, 160,000 kids. Since I've been on the board over the last few months, I've made it a big attempt to try to get out to schools, visit the principals, teachers, and students there. But I really think when you're in a system of this size, leveraging the organizations similar to those that are sponsoring tonight's event, whether it's the Black and Brown Coalition, Identity, and other organizations that have worked throughout the community will be really important.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And the next speaker is Marcus Alzona.
Yes, hi. I believe that we can leverage a lot of technology and in order to engage with our community, with our parents, including mobile messaging, including having forums with both the administrators at a specific school and the board. And I mean, I think we need to also be transparent with our parents about the actions that we're taking as well.
Thank you. Karla Silvestre.
Thank you. Community engagement is what I do for a profession. And so I am committed to doing in-person communication with parents all over the county. I am the former director of the Immigrant Resource Center for Montgomery County, so I have deep ties with the immigrant community. I am bilingual in Spanish and English, and therefore can communicate with 1/3 of our parent population who speaks Spanish. I'm active on social media. As has been stated, you have to go where parents are. Thank you.
Domenic, Giandomenico.
Thank you so much. So the key to community engagement is reaching out to groups and doing it systemically. We need to make sure that we are engaging, whether it's parents groups, business groups, civil rights groups. We need to make sure that we're engaging those groups on a systemic basis. And to that end, I'm actually starting a group called the Montgomery County Business Education Coalition that will specifically advance the issues and bring together the business community to help our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, there is a national shortage in teachers and substitutes, which is also impacting MCPS. What is the most creative approach you have seen implemented to attract and retain qualified and diverse teachers and substitutes? And this question goes first to Brenda Wolff.
Thank you for the question. I think that the most creative thing we can do is grow our own, which is one of the things that we have been working on. Additionally, we have to get out and reach out into the colleges to get more diversity. In order to increase that, we have our own staff going out recruiting at the schools that they went to. I think that's very important for people to be able to see people that look like them. It encourages them to come.
Thank you. Dawn Iannaco-Hahn.
So I think that we definitely need to be more creative in Montgomery County to get more people here. Part of that, I think, with that creativity is changing some of the hiring guidelines and the salary step guidelines so that we can bring in more quality applicants, and that's at all positions. I also believe, I mean, we've got Montgomery College right in our backyard, and we need to partner with them some more. And we need to increase sub pay, and we need to increase support staff pay so that they come and they stay.
Thank you. Jay Guan?
I think one of the most creative ways that we can go about addressing this problem is to set up partnerships with universities to set up internship programs so that students who are about to graduate and enter the profession will have a hands-on experience within MCPS. That way we can have them in the building before they head out to job fairs. And also at its core, I think we need to pay teachers commensurate wage for the professionals that they are.
Grace Rivera-Oven?
Well, I think that we could create a pipeline from our high school students who are interested in teaching right now. If we want to attract more diversity, then we need to support a lot of these students with scholarships in order for them to complete their studies. We could create a private and government partnership in order to provide scholarship for these students. But we also need to look into our own backyard where we do have many para-educators and foreign trained and born educators who can actually make the jump in order to get the licensing here in Maryland. And we should be able to do that. We have the Welcome Back Center. We have done it with nursing, and we can certainly do it with teachers.
Thank you so much. And Esther Wells.
Yes, thank you. And I echo the sentiments of everyone here. I think one new idea would be to offer a mentorship program where we would partner a seasoned teacher or professional with a junior teacher or someone in as low as high school to say, if this is something that you're interested in, if a teacher has made a profound impact on your life, here's the route, here are the qualifications, and we will stay with you and mentor you throughout college, offer you tuition subsidies, and also, ensure your first few years on the job, you have someone. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Fahmy?
Yeah, I think we need to pay teachers based on their workload. I think we shouldn't restrict teachers from teaching based on their health record. There's a shortage because teachers are getting cut and teachers are quitting based on my last 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we have another set of questions. And here is the question. In some parts of the country, efforts are being made to prohibit public schools from discussing or even mentioning non-majority sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. What is your view of anti-discrimination policies and curriculum with respect to these matters? And we'll start this round with Domenic Giandomenico.
Thank you so much. So this is an issue where I will absolutely not tolerate censorship in our classrooms. The idea of banning information that is critical to helping our students understand the world around them and make decisions for themselves. You can't do that by burying your heads in the sand. You can't do that by removing that knowledge from classrooms. So we need to take a hard stand against that and make sure that teachers have what they need to teach. Thank you.
Thank you. Karla Silvestre.
Yes, I'm a big advocate and supporter of our LGBT community. And I think it's important that our educators have the right and the freedom to teach our students about gender identity and anti-discrimination. If we're going to say that all students belong in MCPS, that means everyone. And we have to empower our teachers to implement the curriculum that we have adopted, which is a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Joftus.
Thanks. Bills such as the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida are deplorable. And I think as a county, fortunately, we live in a progressive community, but we have to be on guard that sentiment doesn't come into our school system. LGBTQ issues are of topmost importance to me. And I would also throw in that there's similar bills trying to get teachers to stop talking about issues around race. Thank you.
Thank you. And Julie Young.
Okay, thank you for that question. To echo what everyone say, our school have to be a safe place for all students. All means all students. So we need to be inclusive, respectful, no censorship. So I support to have our curriculum decided by what we are currently doing and support all communities within our school systems. Thank you.
Alex, Fahmy?
Yeah, I think parents need to know what's being taught in the classroom. There is no reason why a parent can't walk into their child's classroom and see and hear what their child is being taught. They are the parents of their child. My focus is on making sure all students learn curriculum, learn the life skills, learn trades, learn financial literacy, and are set up for success in a global competition. Thank you.
Thank you. Question goes next to Marcus Alzona.
I would say that all students should be respected. However, we do have to have transparency in the schools. And a lot of this seems like we're trying to shoehorn a national issue into our local policies. I think most parents in Montgomery County would agree that you shouldn't be building in a lot of these issues into kindergartners' curriculum. And the current Maryland system starts in kindergarten. It can start at 3rd grade too. That's fine, but be transparent.
Thank you, candidates. Our next question is, what role should data and monitoring play in the evaluation of schools and student performance? How should the conclusions drawn from these data be communicated to the public? And we'll start this question with Grace Rivera-Oven.
I'm a huge believer on data. I'm very data driven. As the past coach of the Latino Health Initiative a couple of years ago, one of the things that we needed to be able to tackle issues in our community was data. So if we have the data and we know where there are things are not working, whether it be with kids not doing well in math, not doing well in English, not doing well in certain areas, then we might use the data to be able to tackle those issues on those schools and to be able then to focus to ensure that we bring all those kids to a level of learning that they're supposed to have.
Thank you. And back to you, Alex, Fahmy.
Yeah, I think parents and teachers need to work together, especially over the last 2 years. You have kids that are 2 years behind, 2nd graders that can't even spell, read, or write, because technically they're really in kindergarten, teaching 2nd grade, being taught 2nd grade. So I don't know how much more data you need. I mean, these kids were in the room for 2 years being told to learn in front of a screen every single day. It just doesn't happen. So the data's there. We all know the data. These kids need to learn real curriculum in the classroom.
Guan.
I think one of the main use of data is to use it to evaluate the effectiveness of our policies and strategies. So that would be the primary use of data. And more importantly, as we acquire these data, we need to make sure that these data are transparent, stored, easy to access for our community. For our community is actually full of people with unique skill sets in data analysis and problem solving. So making those available is a hallmark of transparency. And yeah.
Thank you. And next, Esther Wells.
Yes, thank you. I think data is important for us to be able to have a benchmark and baseline for where our students are in their proficiency in math and English. But I do think we need balance. We need to allow teachers to teach. My son came home today from testing and he is exhausted, he is frustrated, he is in tears, and he is sick and tired of all the testing that is happening. Again, my son is in a learning center, and I think the stress that we are putting on our children, acknowledging that they are experiencing a mental health crisis, is not appropriate. Thank you.
The question goes next to Brenda Wolff.
I think the data is very important because we need to assess where students are at. It gives us a foundation about where they are in reading and math. Monitoring is important. It tells us whether or not the teacher needs support It tells us which students need support. It identifies the need for differentiated instruction. I'm absolutely a data person.
Thank you. Dawn, Iannaco-Hahn. Iannaco.
I was like, almost. So data certainly has its place. My problem with data is that that is all we seem to be focusing on, and we've taken away the joy of teaching and the joy of learning. We need to let the teachers teach, and we need to let the kids learn, and we need to be able to bring creativity back to school again. Yes, we need the data. Yes, we need benchmarks. We need to see where they are, but there's just way, way, way too much testing right now. I feel like the kids test more than they learn.
Thank you. Our next question is, of the various systemic inequities that negatively impact the success of marginalized students, which do you think needs to be addressed most urgently and why? And we'll start this time with Marcus Alzona.
I believe one of the lessons over the last couple of years is that doing reflexive lockdowns by different boards of education, including the one in our county, has severely hurt poor and minority students across the county. And we need to follow the science where schools across the state, across the country, and across the world opened in fall 2020, but we didn't. And so we need people in there that will push back on that and keep the schools open.
Scott Joftus.
Thank you. The top two contributors to improve student performance are the quality of the teacher in the classroom and the quality of the principal in the school. Too frequently, and this happens nationally as well as in Montgomery County, the schools that serve the highest concentrations of students of color and low-income families are staffed with the least experienced teachers and principals. The Maryland Blueprint will help us address that issue through incentives and support. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And the question next goes to Julie Young.
The biggest inequality I see as the opportunity gap. Children cannot be what they cannot see. We must provide all the opportunity for all our students. I propose that we create internship programs that will enable our students to be exposed to possibility. I propose we need to strengthen our after-school offerings so all students have enrichment opportunities for them to be improve academically and socially. Thank you.
Thank you. And the question next goes to Domenic Giandomenico.
Thank you. So the single biggest factor in the quality of a child's education is the quality of their teacher. And the fact of the matter is that Black and brown students and poor students more often than not are getting the inexperienced teachers. We need to make sure, and compounded with that, teacher burnout drives more teachers from the classroom. That means we're going to wind up with more inexperienced teachers. Team teaching can help relieve that pressure by relieving burnout and making sure that inexperienced teachers aren't tossed to the wolves by themselves. Thank you.
And the question goes next to Karla Silvestre.
Thank you. I would say three things: experienced educators, access to advanced coursework, and resources to the schools that need it the most. As it has been stated, I support incentivizing teachers and principals to go to work in our highly impacted schools. I support an audit of our programs to ensure that we have access to high programs all over the county. And I support programs like community schools that bring additional resources to the schools that need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question for the next set of candidates is, what have you done in your career to promote equity and educational justice? And the question goes first to Esther Wells.
So for myself, I am the youngest of 7. And when my family moved to the United States, my parents, they were not involved. They were not aware. They did not understand our school system. And I have gone through MCPS essentially by myself, but with the assistance and relationships with teachers. And what I have done is for my nieces and nephews and my neighbors and other students, I have been able to tutor them throughout their career and ensure that they are able to graduate from high school, because we know that an education is the key to getting out of poverty and into the middle class. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Fahmy.
Yeah, I regularly mentor students that are interested in pursuing a career in sports or entrepreneurship. I work with the sports tech venture capital firm, like I mentioned, and I help underrepresented founders receive funding for their sports and esports startups so that they can, live their dream. I'm also very involved in coaching sports where, that's kind of their escape from, what's going on at home or, getting out of the streets and things like that. I think kids need to be outside having fun, distracted from, any crime or bad environments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Guan.
Over the past years, in my various advocacy and organizing experience, I brought to the board's attention the importance of parent community coordinators, wraparound services, and cultural proficiency in interaction with immigrant communities. In the past year, I served as the MCC-PTA's ESOL committee chair, focusing on support for ESOL families. Previously, I was also part of MCPS ESOL and bilingual advisory committee that focuses on the same group. Lastly, I'm a longtime member of the Asian Pacific American Student Achievement Action Group, where we brought previously unknown issues such as bullying to light and work with MCPS to resolve them.
Thanks. And Grace Rivera-Oven.
Thank you. I actually created an after-school program for at-risk youth, many of them who are gang involved. For many years, I mentor and ran this program, taught them everything, all the skills that they needed, many of them conflict resolutions, helped them to find a job, turn around their lives. Many of them are productive members of society today, but it was actually creating a space where they had mentors and where they knew that their community loved them and wanted them to see them succeed and challenge them to be their best.
Thank you. Brenda Wolff.
My whole career has been access and opportunity. In fact, I originally got interested in running for the board because I was running a mentoring program at one of our high schools and realized that the discipline numbers were out of whack for Black and Brown children. And I thought in 1997, I had resolved this issue when I was the director of the Office for Civil Rights in Philadelphia and did a compliance review here on that issue. But alas, it's still here.
On Iannaco-Hahn.
So my entire career has been mental health in school settings, anywhere from preschool all the way up to 8th grade. And I've worked with children and families in impoverished communities almost my entire career. Now that I'm in Montgomery County, it's a little bit more mixed, but I did support groups. I did after school activities, went to kids' houses when they needed me to. If they weren't in school, I went to find them and find out why, and working with the families. And so that's been my whole career.
Thank you. Our next question is, students have called for boundary changes to address racial equity and school overcrowding issues. What are your views on their requests? And we'll start with Scott Joftus.
Thank you. This is such a difficult question. I strongly support the desegregation of schools, but the reality of drawing lines, redrawing boundaries is extremely fraught. Parents and other stakeholders are very committed to their neighborhood school, and when we try to draw boundaries, that causes a lot of problems. But I'm certainly open to doing that if there's support among the communities to do so.
Julie Young.
Thank you. We know that students benefit having a diverse population to learn from each other. However, we also understand that neighborhood relationship is important, reduce carbon emission is important, and sleep time is important, cut down travel time is important. So I will advocate when there is adjacent boundary capacity issues, we will look at school boundaries, and diversity can be a factor in consideration. And also I will advocate for mixed housing in our county.
Marcus Alzona.
I do some work in geospatial technology, so I'm very familiar with different map making software. You have to determine the boundaries based upon just the local school district. You shouldn't be somehow like gerrymandering, distorting a school boundary to achieve some goal. And in fact, trying to do that for racial equity is sort of papering over an issue that some schools aren't doing well. We need to focus on raising up the schools aren't doing well, not papering the issue over by trying
Thank
to
you.
bust people.
All right, Karla Silvestre.
MCPS draws school communities all the time, boundaries based on socioeconomic diversity, proximity, and school utilization. We have the opportunity to redraw boundaries for adjacent communities with the opening of the new Woodward High School and the upcoming Crown High School. Those will be huge boundary studies, which will allow us to implement the factors of the policy, which are again, proximity, utilization, and socioeconomic diversity. Thank you.
Domenic Giandomenico.
Thank you. So, our schools are segregated because our communities are segregated, point blank. And, we need to make sure that we are providing opportunities for affordable housing. We need to make sure that we're making it more affordable to live in Montgomery County. And at least from the Board of Education standpoint, what I'd like to see is giving teachers, having all MCPS wages be tax exempt from county taxes, that 3.2%. I'd love to see MCPS employees get priority for things like affordable housing and other community county provided services. And we need to make sure everyone. Thank you.
Our next question is, only 20 schools in the county will have enriched learning centers. Access to magnet programs remains a concern for community members. What are your thoughts on promoting fairness and racial equity in access to specialized programs? And the question goes first to Brenda Wolff.
As I said, I am very concerned about access and opportunity for all students. It's imperative that we not have a scarcity of programs, but that we have abundance of programs. I believe that you have to be clear that even though the ELC program may not be in all schools, there are available programs in our schools. I also support the changes to the magnet program that allowed the cohorts inside the schools.
Don Iannaco-Hahn.
So, for me, my children actually attended an elementary school that has a CES program. And so I was in, a unique situation with that. But I think that there's so much focus on, the CES program and the gifted programs and the magnet programs. And I think that's wonderful. And I think we do have to have that. We need to make sure that the kids who are going into those programs can handle the program so that they don't have mental breakdowns. Everything comes back to mental health for me, always.
Alex Fahmy.
Yeah, I think school choice will help all families and help drive the competitiveness in MCPS so that all students and teachers succeed. Thank you.
And next to Grace Rivera-Oven.
Thank you. If you do the math, that's about out of 210 schools, that's like 10% of our schools for the whole school system. So I think in order to tackle equity, we need to look geographically. I have seen kids who have decided from minority families, decided that they could not take that opportunity because of transportation issues, because it was just going to be too much on the family or the parent, or because they lacked daycare afterwards or so on, or to pick up the child if they had to stay after school.
Thank you.
So you could do a bit better job in that.
Esther Wells.
Yes, thank you for that question. As a newly arriving family student in the 4th grade, I was quickly identified as a gifted and talented student. And it really was the relationship that I built with my homeroom teacher that was able to allow me to stay after school and to get the help I need. And so I do think that if your child qualifies for the magnet program, for gifted and talented program, you are guaranteed a slot in the school. We are going to accelerate your learning and your teachings in your academics. For families in the minority community, we really need to just teach this behavior and to center our culture around education. Thank you.
Thank you, Guan.
A majority of MCPS students receive their instructions in the homeschool. So if we were to move the needle on providing rigorous instructions and alleviating the opportunity gap, it needs to start at the homeschool. I think the main focus should be on increasing access to curriculum such as ELC or compacted math in every school for all kids. I think each cluster should have multiple signature and magnet programs such that students no longer have to take a 45-minute bus drive to one of these programs. And of course, our gifted and talented students require specialized support in their area. So when we find GD programs still need it.
Thank you so much. So our last question is, the U.S. Surgeon General has cited later school start times for secondary students as one way to improve student mental health. Do you support a comprehensive study to assess later start times for secondary schools in MCPS? And we will start with Domenic Giandomenico.
Thank you so much. Yes, I absolutely support such a study, and anything along those lines that could possibly help our students learn better or achieve better mental health. We really have to take those steps right now. Usually this issue is going to get contentious though, from the standpoint of extracurriculars and sports. So we need to make sure that we're working out a system where we can maintain those kinds of very valued activities while we can change things around. Thank you.
Karla, Silvestre?
Yes, I think as a mother of a 9th grader, I know how hard it is for her to get to bed on time and to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to school. I would support a study, but we have to prioritize the timing. We're about to change our bus fleet from regular buses to electric buses. We are acquiring a new bus tracking system that will allow us to do some of this work which would complement a study. So it's about prioritizing and timing. Thank you.
Marcus Alzona.
Yes. Hi. As one of the previously mentioned magnet students who, when I went to school, high school every day, had a 45-minute or 50-minute bus ride each direction, I completely would agree with having such a study. I do think that given the bus fleet as a proponent for electric vehicles, I would be interested in trying to incorporate the logistics of it such that we could safely and adequately accommodate all our students. Yeah.
Scott Joftus?
Yes, I would definitely support such a study. We've been getting lots and lots of letters of support for that. I definitely agree. I have a junior in high school, and it's a struggle every day for her to get up and be ready for school. I think that's really important. I do agree with Vice President Silvestre that getting the timing right is really critical, and I do think it complements the transition to electric buses and the tracking device application device as well.
Julie Young.
Yes, I support it. And actually, a few years back, we did do a study and time was adjusted a little bit. I have a high school student, so I relate to everyone. So this is a perfect example how our system can engage parents, can think outside the box, do focus group with different areas of parents, get ideas, creative thinking going. So this is one area that we can use collaboration, and it will be a good way for us to do all our decision making.
Thank you. And our last question of the evening, what is your view on the roles of law enforcement and counseling in our schools? And we will start with Dawn Iannaco-Hahn.
Well, I think everybody probably already knows my view on counseling in schools, and we need more of it for sure. We need licensed clinicians in the school that can actually provide therapeutic mental health services. As far as law enforcement goes, so I think that really needs to be on a school by school basis. I can only speak to my personal experience with that, and school system I worked in before had a school resource officer, and the kids loved him and had a great relationship with him. And we worked in partnership, but it needs, Montgomery County is a much larger school district.
All right. And the next candidate is Brenda Wolff.
I think that our students have to feel safe in schools, and we have heard them, and they want the return of some sort of community engagement officer. As a Black woman and a parent of a male child, I do have concerns about what has gone on in the discipline numbers, but I do think that in looking at it holistically for the whole community, we have to have some sort of security in our schools. Counseling, yes.
Thank you. Esther Wells.
Yes, I do agree as a mother of 2 Black boys that it is important for us to have positive intervention and community engagement with our law enforcement officers as early as possible to ensure that children have a positive experience first in their mind. Secondly, I do think that I would work with principals of each school to understand what their needs are, what their staff and students' needs are on a school-by-school basis, and to understand if it's a law enforcement officer or if it's a security guard, but they are the captains of their ship and they will know what they need. Thank you.
Grace Rivera-Oven.
It is my understanding that the MOU has already been signed to bring back some form of SROs into our schools. But my focus would be on supporting foremost mental health support for our students and our teachers. I think it's important that everybody feels safe and welcome in their schools. I think investing in after-school programs and mentoring programs, investing more on the street outreach network program, it is vital to be able to do both. But we have to be conscious that the representation of Black and Brown students and expulsions and detentions.
Thank you. Jay, Guan.
So I think mental health support, counseling and law enforcement are not mutually exclusive. They are not an either or choice. We need to have them both available to our schools, and so that our school administrators can make a choice as to what to use based on their individual situation. Again, mental health support and law enforcement, they're not an either or choice. They're not mutually exclusive. They are part of a comprehensive wraparound service that we provide to our schools.
Alex, Fahmy.
Thank you. If our tax dollars can go towards security and protection for Superintendent Monifa McKnight, then we also need to protect the hundreds of thousands of students. I agree with Jay's point about the differences of mental health and protection in the classroom. Both are important, both are needed, and both are required. But I also do think that we just need to let kids be kids, let them, go out and play outside, have fun, and that'll make them happy again.
Thank you so much, candidates, for your thoughtful responses. We are complete with the Q&A portion of the evening, and let's move on to hear your closing statements. We're going to go in reverse order. So let me just give you a second to take a breather. And we will now start with Karla Silvestre. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating tonight. My take-home message to you is the unique perspective that I bring to the Board of Education. Because I work in higher education and serve on the board, I'm able to see education from kindergarten to graduation to post-secondary to the workforce. And that is critically important, given that the goal of our school system is to prepare students for college, career, and community. I also have 25 years of experience in youth development, community engagement, workforce development, education. I would love to have your support so that I can serve on the board once again. I have now 3 years under my belt, and I will use the lessons learned in those 3 years to make MCPS the high quality educational system that our students deserve. Thanks again, and check out my website at karlasilvestre.com.
Thank you so much. Domenic, Giandomenico.
Thank you so much. Civil rights and civil liberties are under assault in this country, and we've already got people like Texas Governor Abbott announcing intentions to overturn the very idea that every student has the right to an education. This is all just getting warmed up. Students are and will be under attack for the schools and students will be under attack for the foreseeable future. Make sure that your candidates take a strong stance against those who would weaponize our classrooms for their culture wars. I've been fighting for 20 years for every student to get a world-class education, regardless of their family wealth, their gender, the color of their skin, their zip code, or their religion. And I'm not about to back down now. We must ensure equity and excellence for every MCPS student, and we must tackle the crises of mental health, teacher burnout, and COVID learning loss, which all disproportionately impact disadvantaged students. To get there, we must modernize, we must implement accountability, and we have to stay focused on our students. They are quite literally the future of this county, and we must take all steps necessary to prepare them for life. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Brenda, Wolff.
Thank you. I ask that you reelect me to the board. As you know, I was elected 3 years ago now, and I'm in my 4th year. And my issues are access and opportunity. That has not been available all over the county. We have to get back to teaching and learning and ensuring that all of our students are getting what they need. I have been the president for 2 years, vice president for 1 year. I have a proven record of being able to work and bring my colleagues together to build a successful future for all of our children. Under my leadership, we are tackling some big issues that are obstacles to achieving a world-class education for each and every student. Our opportunity gap has worsened. The pandemic has made it more important now than ever that we ensure equal opportunities for all of our students. Let's fulfill that promise.
Thank you. Dawn, Iannaco-Hahn.
So thank you to the League of Women Voters in the community for this opportunity this evening. I plan to bring a unique perspective to the board. I have mental health experience, I have educational experience, I have a child in MCPS, and I have a child with an IEP. I'm always willing to learn and grow, and I plan to bring a much needed fresh perspective to the board. As a therapist, my job is to listen, and I do that well. We need someone on the board who's really willing to listen and to hear the community that it's supposed to serve, the families, the students, and the staff. And I believe that person is me. I welcome anyone to contact me if they have further questions or if they want to engage in conversation. You know, some of my top priorities are really just to bring the joy back to teaching and learning, less concentration on data and more concentration on creativity in the classroom, restoring the community's faith in the board and in MCPS, and of course, getting better and more efficient mental health programming in the schools and maintaining and getting quality teachers into the schools. Thank you for the opportunity.
Julie Young.
The last few years have been a struggle, a real struggle, especially for our students and everyone involved in educating our children here. I experienced it as a staff member, and I heard it countless times meeting voters. Now, helping students succeed isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. We need leadership that listens and hear what you have to say. That's how our decisions become the right decisions. That is exactly the type of leadership I will bring to the board. Now, I have very limited time to share about me to you. And you can go on, I encourage you to check out my website to see the testimonials from state, county, and local elected officers. But most importantly, check out the testimonials from students, parents, and colleagues about me. Now, as an educator, I'm part of our MCPS community. I'm one of you. I humbly ask for your vote to make sure every child has a chance to succeed. Thank you for this evening.
Thank you. Scott Joftus.
Thank you so much. I started tonight with a quote from Jamie Raskin in support of my candidacy for the Board of Education. And we since had a good conversation about policy perspectives and issues. But what we really haven't discussed is how do you make those issues and advocacy positions happen in a school district? So I want to end tonight with a quote from one of the district's superintendents that I work with. This is Dr. Demetris Liggins, who's the superintendent of Fayette County Public Schools in Kentucky. Dr. Joftus has a clear understanding of how districts operate, what it takes at both the school board and superintendent level to improve outcomes for all students, and has a sincere passion for education that makes him an ideal candidate for school board. Any community would be fortunate to have someone of his caliber on their school board. I hope you all agree, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next closing statement will come from Marcus Alzona.
Yes, with nearly 160,000 students and 19,000 staff, Montgomery County Public Schools implements and manages the largest local information technology infrastructure in the entire state of Maryland. Montgomery County needs at least one school board member who can provide proper oversight of such a system with decades experience in IT, cybersecurity, data privacy, live streaming, networks, and STEM. Also, we need to see our teachers as essential workers and pay them appropriately. But also, we need to make sure that in the ups and downs that are sure to come over the next few months, few years, that we work to keep our schools open and safe. And that is going to be my focus on the Board of Education. Thank you.
Esther Wells.
Thank you. I want to address everyone watching. Nothing is more important than the future of our community, our children. Their future is on the ballot on July 19th. Our children do not have a vote and depend on us as the adults in our community to advocate for them and in their best interests. We need to resolve within ourselves that our children's suffering and learning loss during the pandemic will not be forgotten. MCPS and the Board of Education should be held accountable for their failed leadership that resulted in our children's mental health crisis. Montgomery County needs a renewed sense of urgency and focus on academics in the areas of reading, comprehension, and math, and the critical life skills needed for after school. Teaching our children how to think, not what to think. Children need to think critically. Vote for Wells, and I will be that champion for our community. I welcome hearing from you and hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Grace Rivera-Oven.
Thank you. For over 35 years, I have been an advocate for hundreds of families in Montgomery County. The data speaks volumes about where the achievement gap is, where the socioeconomic gaps are, and the pay gap come from. We must support our schools and their communities to ensure they have the resources and funding that they need. Although one of the main assets of Montgomery County is our geographic and demographic diversity, it is imperative to understand that a standardized model across the board is not always the best approach. If I'm elected to the Board of Education, I can assure you I will not tolerate racism, sexism, or other forms of discrimination toward members of our community. I believe truly that our schools should always be a welcoming place for children and parents from all walks of life. So I hope you can trust me with your vote on July 19th. My website is www.graceriveraoven.net. Please see what I'm all about. And I can assure you that App County will have somebody who's going to advocate for the App County.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay Guan.
MCPS is at a crossroad. As we put the pandemic behind us, we must make sure that we take its lessons to heart. We need to ensure MCPS operations are more resilient against future disruptions, whether it be public health events, labor shortages, or other emergencies. We need to regain public confidence by making our decision-making process and community engagement more transparent. We need to consistently and succinctly communicate our intent, the criteria and the information used in this process. Moreover, we need to set up transparent, easy access to academic performance, operational, and demographic data. Our community is full of people with unique skill sets and expertise. Not only is easy access to information the bedrock of transparency and public trust, it also helps us crowdsource data analysis and problem solving to a larger pool of talent. On July 19th, vote Jay Guan for Board of Education District 1 for safe, effective, and sustainable MCP operations and reformation.
Alex Fahmy.
Yeah, we need transparency in the education system between the parents and the schools, and I will fight for that. Teachers and students should not be restricted from receiving an education or teaching in person or playing sports or coaching based on their medical record, and I will make sure of that. We need more teachers, and we need to focus on paying the teachers based on their workload. I'll also protect women's sports. I'll also help students dream big, learn trades, develop a strong work ethic, and be competitive in the real world so they are set up for success. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, candidates, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this amazing event, and thank you to the many co-sponsors. Don't forget to vote by mail, vote early, or vote on Election Day, July 19th. Thank you again. And that's the end of our forum. Good night, everybody.